worldwide fam. It's Mother Love, the even more fabulous Mother Love. And I can say that with all due confidence. And this is the guy that could tell you, okay, you see his shoulder, now you see his face. Hey there, Mr. Kennedy.
Hey
What's
there.
up with you, baby?
Oh, I was getting myself set up.
Oh, see, now you're not ready.
I'm ready now.
You be all over me. You gotta be ready. You need to be in the chair 45 hours before it's time for you. Get in there. This is what we do, y'all.
Okay.
This is what
I'm on now.
You're on, and you look so handsome.
No, thank you.
Okay. Speaking of handsome, do you think that was a handsome landing on the moon? We haven't sent the United States hasn't sent a vehicle. I don't know what do you call it, a rocket ship, or what do you call it?
A
And they said
rocket
it
ship.
landed on the moon
A
after
rocket ship.
50 years.
They call it a rocket ship.
A rocket ship. Okay. And do you think that it landed on the moon after 50 something, over 50 years?
Well, actually, I do. I mean, now, do I have a little bit of skepticism? Yes, because what was the actual purpose of landing the spaceship on the moon? Just to take pictures. Well, if you're not trying to actually start a colony on the moon.
Here we go with the Matrix and it starts.
No, it's not. The Matrix is about no. If you're actually going to do space exploration, okay, a good jumping off point would be leaving from the moon versus leaving from Earth, because it would take less energy to get the rocket up in the air and for you to travel further, because there's far less gravity on the moon than it is on the Earth. So that's why I see where, to me, it would make sense. We should have been doing that a long time ago.
Okay, so when you think about it and you say a long time ago, it was almost 50 years ago.
Yes,
I can remember parts of it, that they were saying that this could not happen, and if it could happen, and you really, I don't see. I'm just. You said you have a little bit of skepticism. I am just no. I just don't. Because see, I saw the movie Capricorn 1. Okay, maybe I was a little tainted when I saw Capricorn 1 because they showed all the visual effects that we had at the time that could make it look like they went to the moon. And I have a lot of skepticism. And then a lot of my skepticism, I have to say, was gone after I met astronaut Mr. Buzz Aldrin. And
you're right.
We had, and I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't consider myself a science person per se.
Okay.
I mean, I'm like on the outside of it, butterfly starts at a moth, and, frog starts at the tap hole, and people start as an egg and a sperm. So, I mean, it could happen. And I was really skeptical. I just didn't believe that, especially people in our community. They ain't went to no moon. How they gonna go to the moon? They spend all that money up in space. Why don't they do something about the resources down here? Why don't you fix the roadways? Why don't you fix the railway? And why y'all spend all that money on somebody? It's gonna be 12 people in the whole United States that can do that. What about the other people? Okay, and I've heard that.
Okay. One of the things, but hearing about that, if you stop and think about the modern inconveniences that has come from us trying to go to the moon even 50 years ago. Okay, one of the biggest inventions from that was Velcro.
Tang.
No, Velcro.
Tang.
Okay, excuse me. All it did was drink Tang. Okay, they invented Velcro.
Tang came before Velcro. Velcro was very good. Yes, everybody has it in their sewing box.
And not just a sewing box.
And your toolkit.
It's used for a million different things now, on ways to strap stuff down, to be able to easily use things that work for all of us. That's just one right off the top of my head that I can say without fail. That was one of the best things that actually came from them even trying to go to the moon.
So what? So $100 gazillion was spent to create Velcro? Really?
I said that was one of the biggest inventions from that. Not that was the only one now.
Okay.
Okay, now if you want to pull up and we can see what other inventions came out of them going to the moon 50 years ago, we can do that as well. because that's another way of educating people. Yes, there were positive things that came from going to the moon. It made air travel a lot safer
Mhm.
because we learned things. We learned how to build the
Super airplane.
outside of planes that could withstand a lot. I mean, if you think about it, there are over 10,000 planes flying every single day. Over 10,000. And not usually
At
not even
any
one crash.
given time.
And not one crash out of all those 10,000 planes. And the number is probably actually higher than that. But
It
the
probably is.
fact that you can know that 10,000 flights are on the air every single day, and 100% of them land
They,
safely.
they do. They do.
That's technology. We learned about navigation even more. I mean, even with your critics and your skeptics, you have to stop and think again about what is the best thing for the majority of us. I mean, if we don't learn more about what's out there in space, we're doomed to just live and die here on this one planet. If we're messing up the
Okay,
planet,
but what if let me ask you this, but what if not, and what if we're meant to be here on this planet? How come we can't just go to Jupiter? Why can't we just go to Pluto, whether Pluto is a planet or not a planet? I think we're back to Pluto being a
and the
planet.
suggestion
But
is
nonetheless, wait a minute, let me finish. Nonetheless, we get up and we go, okay, we're gonna go to the moon, we're gonna go to Mars, we're gonna go to Saturn. I just, why are we not using our resources on helping and making sure that all of the people on this planet Earth are taken care of, are well taken care of? I think we're missing out on a lot of ingenuity with the people who are just stuck in poverty, with the people who are just stuck in bad relationships. We got to start to think about that. What do you do when I can make this work for me? Okay, you see
okay. Question for you.
Velcro. Okay.
Okay. Question for you.
Mhm,
If by not doing exploration, by not doing
mhm.
exploration, you don't invent other things that will help keep you alive here on this planet as well. And the fact that the more you learn about how to travel, the more you're gonna learn how to save this planet and the people on it. The fact that if you will never solve every single problem for every single person,
Mhm.
you will never solve
So we work
every
for on the
single.
masses. I get that. I get that, and there are going to be casualties on the way to invention and into ingenuity as we're on that path of ingenuity and creating new modalities in a lot of areas. I'm just not understanding, and I still don't understand it. And like I said, I actually had the privilege of sitting and chatting for quite some time with Buzz Aldrin. I love you, Buzz. And we were having this conversation. I said, uh, what was that like? Did you really land on the moon? He said, we really landed on the moon, Mother Love. I said, what's the proof? He said, this is the proof for him. He said, when he landed and he got out to walk on the moon, his back was to Earth. And he had to, whatever they do to, turn around, and you got on the astronaut suit, like a big giant snowsuit for grown-ups. And he said when he turned around, and he saw the earth, and he could see other parts of the galaxy. And he said, Mother Love, I am a scientist, I am an astronaut, I go by numbers, I go by what makes sense, the algorithms, and all the other kind of mathematical stuff he was telling me at the time. And I'm sitting there like this, and he said, I turned around and I saw the earth. And he was looking at the where you could see Australia. So it was like daytime in Australia and nighttime in other places on the planet. And he said, I said, well, what did that do for you? He said, what that did for me was let me know that there is a God. Only God could suspend a planet in the just out here in the universe. And he said it really changed him philosophically, not necessarily religiously, but he saw the power of the Almighty and saying, that's just awesome. So that's where a lot of my skepticism was like wiped out. They just went away because I was sitting there listening to him and asking him questions, and there was nothing never once did he say, "Okay, I can't answer that," and I'm still skeptical.
Okay,
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Because you like all this exploration and Star Wars and all of these. Should it become possible? Well, I'm sure it is possible now with Elon Musk and all these other gajillionaires. Would you pay to go on a space trip to go out and land on the moon?
if I'm fortunate enough, probably in another 30 years, would be for the fact that I mean they haven't actually started building a colony on the moon yet. So eventually, I believe that they will because in my opinion, it's just my opinion,
Mhm.
is that I think it'll be easier to venture further out into space if the ship was built on the moon with less gravity, so you'll need less energy to push it into space than it takes to push it into space from off Earth. The gravitational pull is far less on the moon, which I believe will make it a lot easier to travel from the moon to further out into space. The fact that we're looking at the other planets and we say out of ones that we can see that are close enough to Earth,
Mhm.
Mars seemed the most likely to be able to be inhabited by man. But one of the things that is preventing people from actually traveling to Mars is that the time that it would take to get there, and the fact that how old you would be once you arrive. That this is a right now for right now it's only a one-way trip. You will be able to go to Mars, but you won't
Yeah.
live long enough to come back.
Okay, wait. So that's like not coming back to your because people are like your passport. People think that their passport allows them to leave the country. You can leave and go any place else you want to. Your passport is for getting you back home to where you live in whatever state or whatever province that you live in. And so you're saying that people could go to Mars, but they have to stay on Mars. They couldn't come back.
I said if you look at how long the distance is between Earth and Mars,
That's what I want to know. How can
and,
they
and
say it's a light years,
okay,
like a 400,000
so
light years away?
okay, but that's try being a scientist. See,
Oh,
when you don't know,
we
wait a minute,
know.
when you don't know something, you allow somebody else who stops to take the time to
Mhm.
know, to be able to tell you. I mean, if you only work only on your own knowledge only,
You're not going to get anywhere.
you wouldn't get as far. I mean, part of this is that yeah, it's easy to say that something is not right because we love to be the naysayers. Seem like more and more. I'm the
Okay.
conspiracy theorist, people who say,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is not right." Okay, and I ask conspiracy theorist people all the time. Now, you tell me that the Earth is flat because when you went back and you did your geometrics and your coordinates, you said, "Okay, the Earth is just flat, just one big flat surface." Well, why do you look up? Why do you, with your naked eye,
My
look up
naked
into
eye,
space, look up into space,
looking into space.
and isn't the sun round? Isn't the moon round? Isn't all the other planets that your eye can see? All of them happen to be round.
Okay,
Okay,
see,
so that's just a coincidence that every other planet that you can see happens to be round, but Earth is flat.
and what part of it is flat? Are they saying the whole
From one
planet?
end to the other, that is all one flat. There's one giant area that's all flat. Okay, and once again, if that is the case,
That's not what
how
Buzz
is
Aldrin said.
okay?
He
But wait a
looked
minute,
there. He said, "That's not it, mother love." Mm-mm.
I'm not just talking about Buzz Aldrich.
He's the only
I'm
person
saying
I know that went to the moon.
okay. I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying to you is that with your own naked eye,
Right.
when you look up into the skies,
The
do you
sun.
see how many flat objects do you see in space? When you look up into space,
Mhm.
you know. So I can people can be a conspiracy theorist all day long and
Mhm.
twice on Sunday if that makes them feel better. But
You just
you
have to.
you still no, you're still not explaining why when you look with your naked eye into the sky and every other object that you see in the sky is
It's
round.
circular. It's round. Mhm.
but the planet is flat. I
See,
know. I mean, you can give all the coordinates you want, but with your own naked eye, when you look up into the heavens, every other object that you see and up there is round. But Earth is special. I take that
you
back.
know,
Earth is special. Earth is special. So yeah. So therefore, if you say that Earth is flat, then because we're special, then okay, okay, that's the case because we're special.
that makes absolutely no I mean, what you're saying makes sense. But for people to say that the earth is flat when everything else is in a circular, is round, and it's infinity. Even when you look at Saturn, that's a pretty big planet. And when you look at Saturn, she's got rings, circular rings around her.
You look at
So,
it through a telescope with your naked eye,
mhm.
and
Well, a telescope now, you
and
could look
planet.
at.
No, I'm saying, but you said
Okay, let me
you can.
ask you this. Since you brought a telescope, what did you
Yeah,
do with my telescope?
I have no idea at the
No,
moment.
you know exactly right. What did you do with my telescope?
What I'm telling you is that I have no idea where it is at the moment. So whether that makes sense to you or not,
Okay,
I have no
moving
idea.
on.
I know maybe over the years it was given to somebody for them to be looking at the stars and they never returned it. I don't know. I'm not trying to act as though I know where it is, at the moment. All I'm saying to you is that with a telescope, with your naked eye, every other object that you see out there is round.
Mhm.
So when you're telling me as a conspiracy theorist that you can prove that the Earth is flat, you know, it just doesn't quite make sense. And for how many, and what gets me is the folks who say, well, Antarctica has over 21 continents in Antarctica. Okay, wait a minute.
Wait,
Wait
huh?
a minute. But what? How did you measure that? Since wait a minute, do you have a spaceship that went up in the air and looked back down and said, okay, I'm looking at Antarctica and I see, okay, here's the whole section of
Isn't
Antarctica.
Antarctica a continent?
Yes, within itself, yes.
Mhm.
But they said it's made up of more than just one continent. Okay. I'm no
I didn't get that in bio in the
okay.
class
That's
where
what
you
they
got
say.
the
What they're
what was
saying is
that
that you
class?
should have,
What was that
but you
class?
didn't.
Social studies.
Yes,
Okay.
social studies, geography, history.
Geography, that's the one I was
You
thinking
know,
about. You gotta know what Antarctica is. And there's 7 continents. And now you're saying that the scientists are saying now that
no, the scientists are
Antarctica.
not. These are
Oh,
conspiracy
wait.
people who believe it
So it's just
in
people making up
conspiracies and
stories.
saying that the Earth is flat. I'm not saying scientists are saying that. That's a difference, a big difference.
These are the conspiracy theorists.
And I've looked at videos and listened to them talking and say, well, I'm explaining it this way. And if you listen to my explanation make logical sense. And I say, okay, you can explain it your way and it makes logical sense. But when I look up in the sky, I see all round objects. So for me to honestly to believe this planet is flat, where the rest of all the other planets that you can see happens to be circular. I mean, that makes
Okay,
me
well, let me
stop
just
and
say
pause.
this. Let me just say this. All of what you just said makes sense to people who are conspiracy theorists and they feel like they need to man explain things to other people because I'm just going to be thorough and I'm just going to let you know and you listen to me and they honestly believe what they're saying. So when you got to start mansplaining, to me that's like the first given. You have virtually no idea what you're
Well,
talking
if you're women explaining, okay,
about.
when you look up in the sky, what do you see?
I see round.
Okay,
I see
that's okay.
circular.
So that ain't man explaining. That's
No,
women
they can
explaining.
mansplain to women
Okay,
and
that's
mansplain
women
to men.
explaining. That's women explaining. That's
No,
children explaining.
see, you don't
Anybody looking up into the
understand.
heavens see round objects. I don't care whether you're man, woman, child. When you look up into the heavens, you see round objects. And so it ain't about a man explaining it. A woman explaining.
It's just an adverb,
I
Mr.
didn't say it was
Kennedy, to
not.
mansplaining. Yes, and there are a lot of
Because that's
people,
the
and there are times when women have to woman explain to men to get you guys to understand what the circumstances are, what leads to the circumstances, the foundation, the whole nine. So women we have to do more chicks explaining and women's explaining, ladies explaining, and all y'all got one word, mansplaining. And then you want to say, oh, I don't care if it's man, woman, or child. Mansplaining is one thing. It's an adjective. But when you feel men feel like, okay, let me tell it to you like you six. So let me mansplain this to you. That's all I was saying. We don't have to be mansplained or womansplained to. We know.
I said human being explaining. Look in the sky. What do your naked eye see? If you had a telescope, what do your telescope that you're looking through show you? Every object you see is circular. And to say that some way that this planet is flat just doesn't make logical sense to me. No matter how you want to say, well, look at some pictures that that NASA shows, and they don't show this, but they show that. When I looked at a video that was saying, if you looked at Antarctica and the equipment that they've set up down there to take pictures, only take pictures for so many hours a day, and then they say, well, because they're using solar cells to generate the pictures, they only can do it in the daylight. They can't do it at night. Okay, well, if they only can do it in the daylight, and then they say, well, it's not showing enough hours in the day, whether it is or not. Because I'm not sitting back here saying I'm a scientist or that I helped build a machine that was put down there on Antarctica.
This is your layman's interpretation of the situation.
When they show people say, okay, I'm down here in Antarctica and it's supposed to be so cold.
Wouldn't it be up there in Antarctica?
No, Antarctica is
at the bottom of the globe.
Okay. Why do you have a North Pole if you don't have a South Pole?
Okay, well,
you have East, West, North, and South. Generally, that's what
and we only got. Isn't that something?
Okay,
we only
so
have four directions.
So if
then
the
they
Earth
added
is,
new directions.
Wait a minute. So
Southeast,
if the planet
northwest.
is flat, if we're flat,
it can't be flat. Logically, the Earth cannot be flat.
Okay, well, I'm just asking. When the Earth, if it was flat, then when the sun rises, when all the continents have the same light at the same time?
No, because the Earth rotates on its axis.
Okay,
so
what
as
axis?
the Earth is rotating,
How's
the sun
it rotating?
doesn't move, the Earth moves. Now I feel the Earth move under my feet. Okay, the Earth moves. And it rotates on its axis. So the sun is just in one spot. And then the earth is rotating around. So it's half of it is daytime, half of it is nighttime. Now, see, they just leave the time alone and just let it be old light o'clock and old dark 30. I think we would be a much more productive world. Because you don't need to have all these different time zones. The sun is up. Okay, the sun is down.
Okay, excuse me. Wait a minute. When the sun comes up over here in America, you're telling me it should also be the same time in China when they're dark?
No, that can't happen.
Okay, well, you said
I said old light o'clock and old dark 30. So if it's old light o'clock in China, because that's where the sun as the earth is rotating, that's where the sun is sitting. Okay, that's at nighttime and at dark time, at light time. And then as the earth continues to do the earth thing and rotate on its axis, the sun hasn't moved, the earth moves. And when the earth is moving, it's not going to be the same time. But if we just went to old light o'clock in China, old dark 30 in China, okay, then as the sun is as the earth is rotating, then the time is okay, old light o'clock and old dark 30, because it's not going to be the same time, because the sun does not move. The earth moves. And I think that's why a lot of people get confused, because you think the sun is moving, the sun don't move. And so we have all this daylight savings time. And we get an extra day now. This is a leap year.
Okay, and what are you going to do for this leap year?
Are you
going to leap off the planet?
I don't know what. I'm like, if they could add a whole 24 hours, why can't I have old light o'clock and old dark 30? I mean, you just adding a day, and it only comes, every 4 years? I don't understand that. What is the purpose of that? And if we're going to have February 29th, how come we can't have January 32nd? How come we can't have April 32nd? September, all the ones that got 30 days. Why can't we just add a day to all of them? That's an extra. It's not a holiday. That's the extra day for you to work. I think if we just had either 30 days in a month or 31 days in a month, I think this whole leap year thing just is ridiculous. Leaping from where? And what is the purpose of adding that to the calendar, Mr. Kennedy?
Okay, well, we have to bring. I mean, I used to know that a lot clearer years ago, but it's not something that I've talked about or thought about in quite some time. So no, I don't remember exactly why they chose to add the extra day in February every 4 years, but it was based on the either the Greeks or the Romans saying how the Earth and the Earth rotating around the sun,
Mhm.
that every 4 years it happens to rotate one more time for it to be the 29th versus just 28. Why they chose to say that February would be the shortest month out of the year. I mean, I don't remember all of the details. We would have to just simply look that up, and that way we can inform everybody why they chose that to be the case. Because no, I don't actually know that right off the top of my head why it is the case.
It's just
I don't
dumb.
recall.
It don't matter what. That's just kind of dumb. Okay, so the babies that are born on the 29th of February during that leap year, they don't stop growing for 4 years. So they say, and
Are you
we
sure
know
they don't?
we know some
That
people
that
that
could be another conspiracy theory that you get,
what?
that the fact that you only have a birth date every 4 years,
But your whole
that,
body grows
but
to
that you will
four.
live longer than other people because you have 4 extra years uh, of less wear and tear.
Wait, no, you're still gonna have the wear and tear.
Okay,
Okay,
but
so the
once
child
again,
is wait a minute, the child is born on February 29, 2024. That'll be coming
okay,
up day after tomorrow.
okay,
Okay, so now when the child turns 1 and it's not a leap year, it's the 28th. Do you celebrate the birthday before the 28th or on the 28th or on March the 1st? Because you don't have an extra day every 4 years. I mean,
that
you don't have an extra day from the time you turn 1, 2, 3. You don't have an extra day for 3 years. And the kid's not gonna stop growing. Now tell me
okay.
how
Well,
that's
see,
asinine.
I would have to go onto the internet
Okay, go on. Let me
and to
see.
ask that because what do are you the fact that you end up being able to celebrate that extra, I don't know if you call it celebrating, or the lack, or not to have to celebrate, that you can pick and choose if you want to be say, okay, I'm this for the next year I'm going to celebrate my birthday on the 28th, and then the next year I'm going to celebrate it on March the 1st, and then the next year I'm going to celebrate it on February 28th, and then the following year it'd actually be the 29th, so I'll be
And you're
celebrating on
gonna
the
be 8 years old. You're not gonna be 5. You're gonna be 8 years old. So, but you know what? That could really be something. You could have. I mean, February 29th,
the realization
leap year babies
leap
could like
year.
really get over like a fat. Right? You do a whole thing. The 28th, the 29th, the 30th. There's no 30th, 28th, the 29th, and you could have a 3-day birthday soiree. You could actually go out.
Okay, all right. Wait a minute. Now this is what it says. Julius Caesar, emperor of Rome,
We knew that was gonna be a problem right there. Okay, Julius Caesar said what?
simplified this setup by standardizing the addition to of a day to 365 calendar days every fourth year. The extra day was added onto the end of February because the Romans had long adjusted the length of the month to cope with the unpredictable winter season.
Oh,
So now, understanding that it was done
it
because
was too cold for them. Just got too chilly with them little straps on, them little fancy belts on with just the pallets and the studs on the end of it. Mm-hmm. Figured Julius Caesar had something to do with it. He
but
was
it comes down to, you know, not being able to predict the weather. I mean, see, a lot of things that we do today, and if we stop and think about why people did this hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when they was making the calendar. So
Mhm.
somebody sat down and said, okay, we will decide that every 30 days, okay, we're saying that the moon and the earth cycle every 30 days or every
Mhm.
31 days, depending on why some days, some months have 31 days, a few of them only have 30, and then we have one that can have 29. I mean,
Every 4 years though. And
And
then
it's
how come
only
the
every
other
4 years.
months don't have a date added?
Okay, and once again, it was based on
Julius Caesar.
and looking at the moon and how it evolved every 30 days. And if you think about
Ah, look
4,000,
at the
okay,
moon there. Okay.
okay, if you look at the position of the moon, okay,
Mhm.
where you have where the moon goes from being a small slither
A
to a
crescent moon.
quarter,
Mhm.
okay, to a half moon,
Moon
to
to a
three
full moon.
quarters moon, to a full moon. Okay, they counted those.
Wait, they do. Oh, okay. Go
Okay,
ahead.
wait a
I
minute.
got you. I got you.
Okay, you start with a small sliver,
A crescent.
and it continues to get larger
Mhm.
day by day. So if you're counting that as a day, when you got up, the moon was a little. When you went to bed, the moon was a little bigger than it was the night before.
Mhm.
You see a complete moon.
Mhm.
Okay, that's how the calendar was set up based on the size of the moon that you saw over a 30-day period.
So
Or
that
full moon.
would kind of make sense about the way that they were talking about people aging back then. Because if they're going by, whether when it's a crescent moon, that's 1 year or one season. When it's a quarter moon, that's another season. When it's a half moon, that's another season. And when it's a full moon, that's another season. So maybe that's where they got the April, May, June, the winter, spring, summer, and fall from the Earth. Turning on its axis, and you only see part of the moon as a turn,
Okay,
and it's
well,
in different phases of the moon.
okay, you also have to look at the fact that how you can grow crops because
Oh,
99% of all this is based on how you were able to grow crops.
and having
Okay,
a decent water
because
supply.
no, it was the crops. How too
Mhm.
big, how
Well, you
much
got to have
sunlight.
water for the crops to
Okay, but
grow.
wait a minute. Yes, that's a given. Water is a given. What I'm saying, and when you look at why we have 3 months period, is that you see how the weather generally changes in 3 months period. Okay,
Mhm.
that's why winter is the harshest months when the ground is frozen, when things are not as it starts to thaw out in the spring.
Mhm.
That's why you had 3 months of mild weather and cold weather that's
Mhm.
happening in the spring.
Mhm.
By the fourth month, you're to June with the beginning of summer.
That would be 6 months, not
Okay, no, wait a minute.
okay. This
Once
came out
again,
late.
no. If you're keeping up with this,
Mhm.
okay, 3 months to start. 3 months to start.
January, February, March. Then April, May, and June is the spring.
And if you look how
June,
how
July,
how
August,
plants
September.
grow, how
Mhm.
you harvest stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, after August, when it's the hottest month of the year, generally it's the hottest month, correct? September, it starts to cool. So that's
Mhm.
how they said, okay, we're no longer in the hot
That's
month
where the harvest moon comes in.
because you're starting to harvest the plants
Mhm.
that have grown. So plants grow in a cycle as well. So that's how it helps you to make your seasons because
Mhm.
you watch how things change from every 3 months, how the weather change,
Mhm.
how plants grow, not grow. That the plants grow
What
the
you can
best
put
in
in the
spring
ground to
and summer.
harvest for the
And then
next.
the fall, you harvest it because once it's harvest,
Then
then
you
you
got to
buck,
put it in the storehouse.
and then you buckle down for the harsh winter months.
I remember those days. I think the difference is, from back then when they were using, well, they still use animal skins to stay warm with leather and all of that and fur and what have you. But we learned how to, maneuver through each one of those seasons. I mean, there were times growing up when you didn't know whether to get your spring clothes out or keep your winter clothes closed because you never knew what was going to happen. I remember one time one
But you
Easter
did
Sunday.
though. Wait a minute.
We
Wait a minute.
did on
Wait a minute. You
Easter
did
Sunday.
because wait a minute. Even though you still had storms that would come through, the weather was still changing. The harshness of the winter was starting to pass, and that
I know that. I was
okay,
trying to tell you
well,
my Easter Sunday story when we went to
okay.
church on Easter Sunday and all the ground was dry. We had our little black patent leather shoes on and our socks with the ruffles on. And we went out there and we said, well, Mama, do we need to put on our galoshes? And she said, no, baby, it's a beautiful day. We didn't have that far to go with church. And so We're like not even quite halfway to the church. I'm gonna say about a third of the way. We made it across the parking lot, across the next playground. We walked. The snow came down like you would not believe, and we simply were not prepared for it because actually I don't even think they even listened to the weather report back then. They just went outside. Okay, it's coming in on the northeast side. I'm like, ooh, baby mama's hip is hurting. It must be getting ready to rain. That's how we got our weather reports, and I think that's what made our parents become more astute in
Okay.
looking at the weather report and paying attention
All
because
right.
we simply were not prepared because it looked really nice outside,
Okay, but
and you really have to pay
that's why.
attention to the atmosphere.
But that is why you have parents, because they've been around a little longer than you have,
Yeah.
so that they've seen the seasons change. They've seen spring, winter, summer, fall. They see how every 3 months the weather starts to change. So we start understanding that there is some kind of cycle
Mm-hmm.
that you can see an actual change.
Mm-hmm.
Whether one weather pattern lingers on into the next season does not mean that the seasons does not start to change, though,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't see blossoms start to come until March in most places, in
Okay.
April. Okay, so that's
And
telling you
that's
that
when it's
that that,
beautiful in
that
New Jersey. Oh my goodness, when we were there to be able to see, it was just like God poured out the color palette on the landscape. And it was blue and purples and oranges. And I was just in awe. Every time they changed, and remember the bushes that they would be yellow when they were first
in
blooming?
the spring, yes.
Yeah, and then they would turn completely green. That's just awesome. I understood
Okay,
why
but
they
that
called New
that's
Jersey the
also
Garden
about that.
State.
That's about the seasons changing,
Yes, it is,
and
and
you
you
can
could see it.
physically watch the change occur.
Mhm,
That's why you end up having. That's why we have four seasons, because the weather does change, and it changes to where you can noticeably see it change.
mhm.
Sometimes it can linger.
Like in California, living out here, it's like almost like summer and fall all the time. And the reason why you could tell it when it's fall is because when you're driving around, you can see because not all of the leaves fall off the trees, off of certain trees. And, like in your yard, it's like bleeding trees. The gardener comes every week to clean it, and it turns a different color. That's how I can tell out here when the seasons have changed because what we have sunny days and it rains.
Okay, well, it's time to think about, where do you live? You actually live in a desert.
And we actually live in the desert.
Whether you think about it as a desert or not, you live in a
Go
desert.
to Vegas, you'll know you're in the desert.
Okay, but when you know you're in a desert here, the only reason why it doesn't look like a desert here is because we pump enough water in here to make it green. The only difference. Without water to water the plants to keep them green, it would all be sand.
And now they're talking about how we are in a water drought out here, and there's not enough water being pumped in the lakes around California and Colorado that supply a lot of those waterways are like really drying up. I would have never thought I would have heard that Lake Mead was drying up and they were at dangerously low levels of the water,
But
and
it has
people
to
are
do
not
with
paying attention to that.
it's called droughts when there
Right.
isn't any rain. So if because
And then we have rain,
it's,
we get all this rain, and then we got mudslides. So it's like,
well, first of
what?
all, women, if we accept the fact that you live in a desert, that you live in a desert,
Hmm.
okay, even in the desert, it does rain every now and then. It's not like it never rains. It rains very little.
You better not tell
Your
that
average
Christmas
your
thing that
average
it
rain
never rains in Southern California.
your average rain is about 9 inches of rain for an average year. When they look at all the years and how much rain that you normally get over each year, and that's how they have statistics. So how they can change it
9 inches
for the entire year, yes. Because
for
it does,
California.
no, not for the whole state,
Oh, okay.
for Southern California.
Oh, okay.
We're the desert. Northern California gets a lot of more storms. There's a lot greener up north. When we
Yeah.
travel up north, you see it's a lot greener up there.
Yeah.
And they actually have storms that actually pass through Northern California, unlike how they go around us down here in Southern California,
Why do you think people can't drive in Southern California in the rain?
because
I'm
it
so
rains
glad I
very
don't
little.
have to drive
Because it
anymore.
rains very little. I mean, and
But when it does, they act like, oh my God, it's an avalanche. I can't get through it. Really? Really? They don't understand the concept of you don't drive fast through a standing water because you don't know how deep that is. And a lot of them just seem like they just give up trying to, drive it safely in the rain. It's like well, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go. And it's just like they act like there's no change in the weather simply because it doesn't rain that often.
Well, if that's how you know, you get conditioned to do certain things.
Hmm.
You're conditioned to think about it being dry 90% of the time. And so that 10% when it actually does rain, it throws most people off guard because they're not anticipating the rain to come. And the fact that we do have air pollution, and they tell you that everywhere, that when it first rains, how the oil and the pollution, air pollutants that are in the air get washed to the ground, and that makes driving conditions a lot more hazardous. That's why they tell you to be more careful when it's
Hmm.
raining outside because of the where the roads can become slick from the particles that are being cleaned out of the air. That's why it smells so much nicer uh,
And,
after it rains. I mean, back east when we lived back east, it rained on a regular basis, so it helped to clean the air more often.
and keep.
Here, it does not clean the air as often.
No, it doesn't. And then you could just feel the sticky stuff, being washed off of the trees and the bushes and what have you. And people are like, where did this sticky stuff come from? You got to remember, it's coming from the atmosphere. It's, and we
That you're
still
breathing that. Okay, if it's in the atmosphere, you're breathing that as well. So the human body is a remarkable uh, 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 specimen that all these different things that happen to us and around us, our bodies are still able to still continue to function
and
because you can't change the fact that we have air pollution. As long as we got
yeah, we could
automobiles,
change the fact. We could do better with it. Now that we've seen how we have polluted it, and there are ways that we can clean it. When you talk about, turbine in energy and solar energy, I mean, the
yes,
greatest source of energy is from the sun. And
correct.
had
And
to
so we're
be,
trying to harvest that.
yeah,
We are making an effort to harvest the sun's power. That's why we have all these electric cars now, and we continue to build electric cars. But just like you do one thing, it may help. It's helping this. It's helping with the air pollution
mhm.
tremendously. And yes, we do need more solar electric power cars. Yes, we do. But we also have to realize there's always a yin and a yang to anything that you're doing. And one of the things you have to truly look at is when you're doing that is that, or do you come to the fact to realize that just maybe we're hurting ourselves more than we are helping ourselves at times?
Greed. It is pure and
Well,
unadulterated
without greed,
greed
what would
and
we have?
power
What would we
and
have without
control.
greed? I ask you, what would you have without greed?
Greed is not good. Don't give me that Greco. What's the guy's
Well,
name
I'm just
from
asking. No,
American
no,
Greed?
I'm asking a simple question.
Mhm.
Without greed, the desire to want to earn more, to make more than the next person, because we're not equal on what we will accomplish, on what our ambitions are, what our desires are, because everybody does not want to be a chief. So the fact that everybody's
Oh
not
well, that
trying
could
to
be a
be a chief,
problem right
but that
there.
the majority of us are willing to be Indians makes the world go around. If everybody wanted to be a chief or just do their own thing, how could you accomplish half the things you accomplish if you're doing it all by yourself?
You can't do everything by yourself.
Well,
You
okay
can't
then.
do most
See?
things by yourself. Only thing that you can really do by yourself is take a shower, take a dump, and brush your teeth. And then after that, you can make a choice. Well, do I want to eat by myself or do I want to eat with people? Do I want to go to work by myself or for myself? But I think I want to work with people. So it's very few limited things that you can do on your own. And then when you think about it, even those things require somebody else's assistance because your water's not coming through just because you said, humming, 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 I want the water to come through. There's a plumber making sure that that water comes through you and it's filtered into your house so you wash your behind. And people don't understand that you are not doing this all alone under any circumstances. Break it down to what the real deal is. We need each other. I remember Dr. Maya Angelou, God rest her soul, she had said it is critical for the betterment of mankind and the future of mankind, that we understand one another's culture and one another's history. We need you. She said every Caucasian child ought to know about Black history. Every Black child needs to know about American history the way they tell it. We should know the cultures of the Asian people. And she brought this up, and you could Google it. Do you know that the majority of the railways were put down by Chinese people who were brought over here, like they brought our ancestors over here, forced to come over here and put the word down, and then they got the Blacks to working with them because they looked at whites. Landowners looked at Asian people and Black people like the same thing. Y'all, you property. You do what I tell you to do, and for them to and have the railways that are still going and they could not. The men that they brought over from China could not be with their family members for 8 decades. For those of you who might not know what that is, that's 80 years. So your wife is grown old and she's probably gone. Your children are probably old. Well, Chinese people, they live a long time. Still, to not be able to see your loved ones for 80 years because you've been forced over here. Now, you imagine that, they gave a lot of Japanese reparations when they rounded up everybody after the Pearl Harbor bombing. But do you think that they will say anything about Black people? It'll be cost too much to get in reparations. It's too many of them. Really? Really? And we cannot do it alone. And anybody got have a brain in their head, knows you cannot survive by yourself. You're going to have somebody, someplace you going to the store to get the beef jerky or whatever you eating in the woods and the bushes. You got to go someplace. If you're out in the woods, you're going to find a deer or some kind of animal to slaughter and eat for meat. So you're not doing it on your own. And I think we are beyond stupidity and thinking that we can do that.
One of the things we have to realize is that we do make mistakes as human beings.
Yeah. Oh my goodness!
But the best part about it is that we can reason. I'm like, I don't say that no animal can reason, because some of them can. You can't reason that if you go a certain place, it may be problems. You go another place, it may be problems. And so you like how you say animals fur sticks up when they can sense danger. It's just like when you sense danger, you change. As when you're in an area that you're not familiar with, you're more alert or more in tune of the surroundings because you're not familiar with it,
and more anxious.
Yes, because you're not familiar with it. I mean, it's why like they talk about sleep and how much sleep a person gets, on how that affects how you think, your mood swings because of lack of rest.
You know what? And that says a lot about people, because and I found this out, that a lot of people who live by themselves will keep the TV on all night long.
Why is
that? Because they said that it's the company for them. And the scientists and the sleep providers, I don't know if there's a word for them, but they're the ones that monitor what sleep patterns are, and when you're in, REM sleep and all of that. I know some of the stuff. And
they do studies. They do
sleep studies. How they realize that people suffer from sleep apnea. And one of my friends, we had went on a trip someplace, and we were sharing a hotel room, and she snored so loud. It was like, I know she's gonna work herself up. She doesn't, but then what would happen is she would stop breathing, and you would hear,
oh, and that is called
sleep apnea. And she would stop breathing, and then she would go back, and I would go and nudge her, to make sure that she was okay, and she just, and kept going. But this, I kind of felt, really bad. And I asked her about it, and she said she suffered. She said, girl, I should have told you that we suffer. I suffer from sleep apnea, and I snore really loud, and it could cause somebody else in the room not to get enough sleep. So that's another sleep disorder. She's snoring so loud, and where she stops breathing. So I'm jumping up like, okay, honey, wake up, wake up, wake up. And she would have a TV blasting. I'm like, how she ain't woke herself up with all this noise? So, and she was really sweet about the whole thing. She said, uh, I'll get another room, so that you can get some sleep. Because we were there like on a retreat or something, it was a few days. And when it got enough, and the next day she said, oh, girl, I feel all bright eyed and bushy tails. I'm like, I think I'm just going to go to sleep in the middle of the program. and, and that sent me on the path to find out what causes that. And some of it is metabolic, and some of it is physical, and it's a cycle, and it
It
can be
is.
really
It's a
really
cycle.
frightening. And then not too long after that, they had to put her on a breathing machine. So when
Okay.
she went to sleep, that if she when she went to sleep, if she stopped when she stopped breathing in her sleep, the machine would take over or something. And
Well, that tells you about the wonders of science. That because someone was educated
Mhm.
enough that they could invent a machine that will continue to give you air while you sleep and help you
Mhm.
to breathe while you're sleeping, so that you wouldn't pass away in your sleep
Mhm.
from a sleep apnea. Because you could basically what it means more than anything is that you end up choking to death.
Or yeah, and it can be very scary and very disheartening. Thank
Yes.
goodness she's doing well, and last time I talked to her, she said she doesn't have to use her. I want to say a CPAC, but that could be wrong. That could be a whole
But
nother
also,
story.
they also have invented a little thing that they can implant in you that works the same way, and so you don't have to have that big machine
Thing on
anymore.
your face.
Yes, so you don't have to have that. I
Oh,
mean,
I saw that.
right. So we continue to improve, to make improvements. You ask why do we venture out into spaces? Because in order to go further out into space, you have to come up with new ways to keep a person able to breathe, able to
Dang!
live for longer periods of time, to be able to adapt to weightlessness. So
Oh
maybe
yeah, that would be my thing. I would go to the planet if they said I could be weightless and then come back to Earth and be weightless. See,
I mean, but it
that's
also
another whole thing. That's another whole thing
it's a
about the
one
whole.
way trip. Remember, going to Mars right now is a one way trip.
See,
Not a round trip. It's not a round
see,
trip
see,
yet. It's a
that's
one
the
way trip.
issue. That is
So,
an issue right there.
think about this though. Wait a minute. Think about this. Eventually, my thought would be is that you will end up having to take babies with you, or you would have to take women and men to Mars so they could reproduce to have so people would be able to survive on Mars.
And listen,
The only way we wait a minute, the only way wait a minute, the only
we
way
don't
we
even know how to stop. We don't
wait,
even
a minute,
know
let
how
me
to.
finish though. Wait a
No,
minute.
I'm not, because that's just crazy.
That's
That is
okay,
just
wait a minute.
crazy. You
If you
just gonna
allow me
take
to
a bunch of.
finish,
I mean, you're just
okay.
gonna take a bunch of people to Mars and tell them you can go up there and procreate. You can't even figure out how to land on there.
First of all, you're not sending a group until you know how to do it right. I mean, I mean, wait a minute.
And we
Part
might
of
not
this,
see that in our
okay,
lifetime.
so part of this is common sense.
Mhm.
Is that if you're going to start a colony on Mars, you have to have men and women to recreate other human beings, and in order for them to spend their life on Mars. Okay, or you take babies, so by the time they get to Mars, if they're if it takes 20 to 30 years to get to Mars, okay, if you started as a baby, then you're just in your early 30s when once you arrive.
Who's
Because
gonna clean up all that baby poop and clean
okay,
up?
wait a
That's
minute.
gonna be a
Okay,
funky
wait a
ride.
minute. You cleaned up baby poop right now
Not
on this planet,
yeah.
so it's not like you can't
What if
clean it
it?
up on the
What if
travel.
they don't have gravitational pull where it could go down in the toilet? What if it just go out in the
Okay, so
ether?
once again, you have to become a scientist, so you'll know more, and you'll know that this is something that can be done. That when they pressurize the cabin, it's just like they tell you when you're on an airplane and the pressure drops. And okay, if it drops enough where the airbags come out, you
Mm,
put the airbag over your mouth so you can continue to breathe, even though the
mhm,
air pressure is dropped in the cabin, so you won't pass out from a lack of oxygen.
mhm.
Okay, it's the same thing on how they learned how to travel more and more out into space. How they have people right now circling around the globe in the space station.
Well, Putin is threatening to blow up all the satellites. He
Okay,
didn't just lost
threatening
his
to blow.
rabbit mind.
Okay, threatening to blow up them up and blowing them up is two different things. You can threaten a lot. It's just like conspiracy theories. You say the world is flat. Okay, well, if you believe it's flat, well, then they got these satellites that just go back and forth across the world. They don't really go around the world. They just go back and forth. That the gravitational pull just keeps only allowing them to go up so far, and then they stop.
And
I
see,
mean,
this is something, if I can understand that crazy, it's mind-boggling that scientists don't understand and get that and understand no matter what you do, you're going to always, always, always need a human component. For as much as artificial
well, what is a
intelligence,
scientist? What is a scientist if that's not a human component?
that's
A
all.
scientist is a human.
Okay, all right, okay, you know what I mean.
Well, I'm that's what I'm saying.
Mm.
A scientist is a human, somebody who got enough knowledge and was willing to work the system to learn how. Okay, this is what this. How do we learn how to make better windows so that you stay warmer inside versus being colder? You know, why do we start building houses
I
that can
thought you
stand
told me it was
the weather?
plastic and duct tape that would keep
No,
us
I did not
warm.
tell you that that was the only thing. I said one thing. One thing is not all things.
One thing is
One
another one.
thing. I said, as we develop more things and learn more, we can do more. If you're not willing to learn more and do more, how can you be more?
Well, what is the more we're striving for now?
Okay,
I mean, is it
to learn
more
how to.
prosperity? Is it more access to the resources? Is it more, what is it more that we're looking for as a
It's all
society?
of the above and more.
Mhm,
Because if you want to achieve, you have to be willing to seek knowledge. If you want to
mhm,
do better, I mean, some people do want more because they have more. That's why you have millionaires and billionaires and average person and poverty people, because everybody have a different level that they will be on. Some
mhm.
people, allow drugs to totally take over their life, and they end up being in the position that they end up being in because they allow the drugs to control their life. If that's not something that you as an individual will want, then that's not something that you wouldn't take upon, because you'll be saying, I want to do something else with my
Mhm,
time on this planet.
mhm.
Because you don't know how many years you will have on this planet.
Today, and you hope you
If we
get
knew
through
that,
today.
if we knew how many years we were going to have on the planet, we would conduct ourselves far
What would
different.
you do? Let me ask you this. What would you do differently about your life if you knew you only had like 6 months to a year to be on the planet?
Well, honestly, that I don't know, and I would hope that I would not go buck wild, because by going buck
I'm
wild,
gonna go
okay, wait a
buck
minute.
while I'm getting on the pole. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
let me
my bad.
finish.
Back
You
up.
asked me what I would do,
Mhm.
and I'm saying I would not go buck wild, because maybe then if they told me I had 3 years left to live, just if we're using that as a marker, and I went buck wild, maybe I might only live 6 months. So then I would have missed out on the other 2.5 years because I went buck wild.
Oh, you are so
Okay, well,
logical.
but think
Wait
about.
a
I
minute,
mean,
hold on.
that's
Oh,
realistic.
I need you to keep talking. I really have to take a pit stop, and we're gonna have to end it right here.
Oh no, I can keep. But there's only three
Okay.
minutes left. I can
Okay,
finish
go
the
ahead.
bill. Okay, and one of the other topics we wanted to talk about is what else was happening in the world today, on how we go about dealing with things that happen and don't happen, and why they happen or do not happen. I mean, we hope that everybody will want to do better as a society. We know we have a lot of ailments in society, that we hurt one another far more than we should as people. That if we care more about each other truly, we would not do some of the crazy things that we do to one another, because we all are going to leave the planet, whether we want to or not. We all are going to leave the planet, and that being the case, we have to be smart enough, or be willing to be smart enough to stop hastening our demise a lot sooner. I mean, if you truly believe in some kind of God, most people who believe in God, I mean, well, most people who believe in God believe in the betterment of human beings. I mean, now religion can tell you should not like this group or you should not like that group, but God made all the groups, like it or not, agree with it or not. God made all of us, not some of us, all of us. Whether I do the same thing you do, or you do the same thing that I do, or we go different paths, we still all were made by God. And when we sit back and we put religion in and say, well, my religion is better than your religion, I ask anyone, if you were born in America and you grew up a Christian, if you were born in the Middle East, you probably grew up as a Muslim. If you grew up over in Asia, you could be a Hindu or a Buddhist because of where you were born, which you had no control over one way or the other. You cannot control where you grew up at, where you not where you grew up at, where you were born. You can't decide where you're gonna grow up at either though, because when you're a baby, you depend totally on someone else taking care of you. And in that vein, we all, if we just stopped and stepped back for a moment, we all go through a lot of different things because of one thing and one thing only. It's because we are all human beings, no matter what. Be blessed, everyone. God bless. We will see you soon. Peace.